Toward the beginning of the film, a young lady furthermore, an elderly person branch out of their home to get some natural air. Be that as it may, what they see totally stuns them. The city of London, which was rambling with people and traffic simply the earlier evening, has unexpectedly been covered with a thick woodland. The high rises, landmarks, houses, everything has been covered with monstrous trees that arose all of a sudden. It doesn't take them long to understand that the last long stretches of mankind have shown up, is nature reclaiming as theirs. In the following scene, a few news channels report that the strange trees have not just inundated London, yet at the same the entire world. All over, individuals are overreacting over the abrupt appearance of the trees. What's more, presently, a few nations, including the Unified Realm, are intending to torch the trees to clear them. Somewhere else, we are acquainted with Clara, and her beau, Danny. The two are instructors at a neighborhood school, and have brought some of their extraordinary understudies on a gallery sleepover trip. Subsequent to get together all their assets, the gathering chooses to head home. One understudy stops to gaze at a cross-segment of a tree in plain view, seeing that it has a solitary thick red ring, portraying how long it developed. Clara, not understanding what it implies, essentially surmises that it probably been a decent year to be a tree. At the point when they arrive at the entry, the gatekeeper, for reasons unknown, neglects to open the entryway. It is stuck to understand that it, Danny inclinations the understudies to help, lastly opens the entryway. Be that as it may, when they arrive at outside, they are totally stunned by what they see. Trees have assumed control over the whole city. A confounded Clara rapidly calls the elderly person from prior, who is really Specialist Who, an outsider entrusted with redressing the abnormalities in the universe. Incidentally, Clara is his assistant, and the two are known for tackling weird secrets around the universe. She inquires as to whether he's nearby, and the last option says, okay. He further notices that he isn't the only one, as a young lady named Maeve is giving him organization. Hearing the name, Clara becomes amazed, as Maeve is one of her understudies, furthermore, she should be in their gathering. Squandering no time, she informs Danny concerning what is going on, furthermore, the two beginning faulting each other for their inconsiderateness. As they contend, we get to realize that Maeve is experiencing close-to-home injury, and has ordinary meds for it. Not long after, Danny, Clara, whatnot the understudies arrive at the specialist's base which is called TARDIS, to bring back Maeve. There, one of the understudies, Ruby, breaks a little branch and figures out that there are no rings in it. She thinks that it is exceptionally unusual, as a tree's not entirely set in stone by their rings, one ring rises to a year. All at once, Specialist Who approaches them and uncovers that the tree has no rings, since it became for the time being, very much like the wide range of various ones on the planet. Danny attests that it is incomprehensible, yet, the specialist answers that it is like the Ice Age, which showed up all of a sudden and devastated the Earth in only a couple of days. He flippantly expresses, "Welcome to the Tree Age." Following this, the whole gathering enters the TARDIS. While the grown-ups attempt to interpret the circumstance, the children are in the middle of playing with the top-of-the-line contraptions present inside. All at once, the specialist runs over somebody's task book, which has a progression of drawings, each page having an image of a furious sun striking down trees. He requests to realize who drew the photos and learns that it was, in all honesty, Maeve herself. Before long, everybody begins looking for the young lady, however she is mysteriously absent. Then, Clara uncovers that Maeve is not quite the same as different understudies, she hears voices in her mind. Everything began at the point when her sister disappeared a couple of months back. Hearing this, the specialist reasons that Maeve knows something, and that she was attempting to make sense of everything this time. The voices she hears aren't ordinary voices, however somebody or then again something is attempting to reach her. Subsequently, she is the one in particular who can lead them to the wellspring of the trees. At the point when the specialist asks what the voices say, Clara makes sense of that Maeve takes drug that can make the voices disappear. This incenses the specialist, and he yells that they won't ever pay attention to a kid. He then utilizes his sonic screwdriver to get a perusing on Maeve's telephone. Following this, he and Clara set off to view as her, while Danny and the children stay behind in the TARDIS. During the hunt, a gigantic sculpture breaks and falls on them. Fortunately, the two sidestep simply in time and get by. That's what the specialist guarantees. Assuming this is actually an intrusion, commonly, they would have won effectively and humankind would be bound. Thus, he's actually befuddled on the reason of the attack. Some time later, the two find Mabe's cell on the ground and expect to be that she is leaving pieces of information for them. Their suspicions end up being valid when they find her tiffin box also, towed en route. It shows up as though the young lady is attempting to lead them someplace. Somewhere else, Mabe stumbles into certain men in defensive suits, who are getting ready to torch the entire backwoods. For reasons unknown, this alarms her, and she promptly changes course and takes off. Soon after, the specialist and Clara likewise show up at the scene, just to be requested to clear the region for their own security. Before long, the men light their flamethrowers and begin consuming the trees. Shockingly, not a solitary leaf consumes. It are not ordinary to infer that the trees. The specialist is similarly stunned by the abnormal peculiarity, yet, he concludes that the trees are controlling the oxygen. Since flames don't light in the non-attendance of oxygen, the trees are purposely keeping it down, with the goal that they don't consume. With this data, the specialist begins investigating the explanations behind the odd event. At the point when he yet again checks Mabe's drawing, it at long last occurs to him that the trees are not the adversaries, yet, they are attempting to save the Earth from an approaching disaster. Presently, they need to track down Mabe, as she is here and there associated with the trees. As the two are talking about, they hear a few wolves crying close by. Clara declares that it is difficult to have wolves in London, yet the specialist accepts that they broke out of the close-by zoo. Then again, Mabe is spotted by the wolves, making her disagreement dread. Hearing her shouts, the specialist and Clara race to help her. They find her on the opposite side of a wall, and comparably the wolves are going to go after Mabe. She detects a door, what's more, arrives at well-being. Nonetheless, their concerns are a long way from being done as the wolves are effectively prepared to do bouncing the wall. With their lives on the line, the specialist trains Clara and Mabe to cluster together and carry on like a beast. The arrangement doesn't work and the wolves hop the wall. In any case, all things considered of going after the gathering, they whine and take off. Mabe is left befuddled regarding the reason why the brutal monsters would take off. All of a sudden, a Bengal tiger gradually moves toward them from the opposite side of the wall. This time, maybe the gathering is destined, yet fortunately, Danny and the kids show up just under the wire and alarm the tiger away. As the two gatherings rejoin and trade merriments, Mabe acts oddly. It appears as though she is smacking something from her head. Seeing her condition, Ruby begs her instructors to give Mabe her prescriptions, however the specialist stops them. He makes reference to that something is attempting to contact Mabe, and in the event that she takes the prescriptions, she will quit hearing the voices in her mind. He further notices that the voices might be instrumental in translating what is happening. Before long, once more, Mabe runs off, and everybody handbags her. She drives them to an infertile spot, where there are no trees and vegetation. With everybody's consideration on her, Mabe uncovers that after the vanishing of her sister, Annabelle, she began looking for her all over. She was unable to track down Annabelle, however what she found were a few considerations. One of the considerations discussed covering the whole world with thick timberland, it is important to guarantee that it. The specialist asks about the wellspring of the considerations, yet little Mabe can't give an unmistakable response. Subsequently, he takes out his sonic screwdriver and works it on Mabe. This causes the articles disturbing Mabe to become apparent as sparkles of light. Before long, the lights become still and use Mabe to convey. That's what they uncover: they are the life force of the trees, which have been on Earth since billions of years, also, will keep on living forever. Their obligation is to save the Earth from outside dangers. What's more, this time, the danger is the moving toward sun-oriented flare from the sun. Befuddled, the specialist asks the life force on the off chance that they sent Mabe to him, however, they deny it. Saying this, the lights leave, liberating Mabe of her infection. Afterward, Clara approaches the specialist and asks on the off chance that he can save the world. Sadly, he answers that he can stop malicious powers, not nature. With all expectations currently apparently lost, Clara proposes a plan to basically save the kids and themselves by entering the TARDIS once more, moving to an alternate heading. In any case, when the gathering arrives at the TARDIS, she lets the specialist know that the children will not really be going along with him. They basically can't forsake their guardians and run off to another planet. It turns out that she faked the thought just to get the specialist back to somewhere safe, as he is fundamental in the course of events. Not having any desire to be distant from everyone else, the specialist tells Clara that Earth is his planet as well and requests that she go along with him. Nonetheless, she likewise rejects, guaranteeing that she doesn't need to be the remnant of a dying breed. With this, the sleepover bunch withdraws, leaving the specialist alone in the TARDIS. In the following scene, as the specialist is proceeding his examination, he arrives at an unexpected place of understanding that the sun-based flare has occurred before in the past. He then, at that point, hurries to meet the gathering, what's more, brings them back inside the TARDIS. There, he makes sense of that the trees are the genuine legends, what's more, that they have been safeguarding life on the planet for a really long time. Whenever a significant calamity hit, they jumped up all around the world to keep it protected from the annihilation. For example, the Tunguska impact of 1908 and the 1930 Kuruka influence in Brazil ought to have cleared off humankind, be that as it may, it didn't. This is on the grounds that the trees all over the world rejoin and kill the danger by controlling the air. Enormous timberlands fill the environment with oxygen, siphoning it up like a profoundly inflammable airbag. Accordingly, when inconvenience hits, the effect consumes off the overabundance oxygen, so they go about as a safeguard that safeguards the Earth. Clara then, at that point, brings up that the tree they saw before in the historical center has a red ring in its cross segment. Furthermore, the red ring is more extensive than the others, which is confirmation that the environmental residue was caught by the tree while saving the Earth quite some time in the past. All at once, Danny uncovers that he heard the government is conveying groups to defoliate the trees. They will drop very toxic synthetic substances onto the leaves, because of which, the trees will at last kick the bucket. Hearing this, the specialist becomes infuriated, as mankind is attempting to kill the main component that is attempting to save the Earth. Fortunately, he tracks down that the portable organizations are as yet working, and chooses to communicate a message to the whole Earth. Little Mabe offers to pass on the message since she was the first to get the news, and the specialist concurs. After this, the children assemble around furthermore, begin creating a message, while the specialist hacks into each correspondence gadget on the planet. Whenever everything is set up, Mabe begins talking. Her discourse is heard around the world, encouraging everybody to be quiet and that the trees are to be let be as they serve a kind reason. She lets everybody know that the trees are their companions, and that they are here to save the Earth from a fiasco. Along these lines, they ought to simply remain inside their homes, and allow the trees to take care of their responsibilities. Prior to hanging up, she additionally demands her sister, Annabelle, to return. Not long after, the children, not set in stone to meet their loved ones. Since they don't know whether the Earth will be saved, they need to spend the last hours with their friends and family. Hearing Mabe's message, her mom additionally shows up outside the TARDIS and embraces her firmly. Prior to leaving, the specialist inquires as to whether they need to observe the sun-powered flare from space, however they deny. As it were his friend, Clara consents to it, yet entirely solely after every one of the children are gotten back. She and Danny then share a kiss, which the youngsters chuckle at as the bits of hearsay about them dating have been validated. Afterward, the double-cross explorers arrive at space in their TARDIS and watch the Earth. Before long, the sun-powered flare strikes, and the Earth is canvassed on fire. In any case, as per the specialist's expectation, the trees retain the decimation and in the end save Earth. Afterward, as they investigate London, the massive trees begin disintegrating ceaselessly. Clara considers everything will be said to about the trees, yet, the specialist answers that they will basically be neglected. Very much like any story previously, it will essentially turn into a fantasy, as humanity has one superpower, the force of failing to remember things. Somewhere else, Mabe and her mother cheerfully get back following an incredible day of experience. All at once, the young lady spots somebody in a close-by shrub and ends up being invigorated. The film closes as the bramble dissipates high up, uncovering her tragically missing sister, Annabelle.